This is a presentation on Perceptions and Culture by Kathleen Doyle. Web-based social cognition, as defined by the textbook, the manner in which various social, psychological phenomena are enacted in the cyber world. Research suggests we're using some of the same cognitive functions, such as perceived expressivity, whether someone's smiling or not, to determine the first impression of people when viewing them online. It's kind of like, okay, I'm looking at the Facebook page, I can see their picture, I can see whether they look nice or mean or not. Same thing happens in person. In contrast to that, you have someone that just sends a text and you don't have the person in front of you to see what's going on. You tend to draw more intense conclusions about it. So for example, if someone is in front of you and they're in a hurry and you can tell they're trying to leave, but they need to send you some quick information, but they're busy and they're distracted by things, then they send you this text real quick. The grammar's off, the spelling's off, there's spacing issues, it's a mess, but you understand, okay, they're in a hurry and it's fine. It's not necessarily due to anything else. If you had gotten that same messy text from them and had not been in front of them to see the state that they were in of that hurriedness, you might draw a more rash or intense conclusion about whether they were an idiot, they didn't know how to spell, they were uncaring or careless, those type of things. So, cultural perceptions. Basically, Julian Burrell talks about cultural glasses and how they shape our reality. So at the center of this picture here, you see all those different flags. That's how many cultural glasses there are around the world. And each of those glasses looks differently at the different things surrounding that circle. So language, manners of interacting, thoughts, relationships, rituals, all of it. Julian, in his TEDx video referenced later on, talks about 3 ways to relate to different cultures. So you can confront and complain, which kind of just leave you isolated, or you can conform, and that's where you truly benefit. And that's learning and understanding the differences and adapting to them. So differences across cultures. This scale right here is from Erin Myers. She's the author of the Culture Map. A video I watched of her is also referenced here. So in America, communication is low context. It means it's simple, it's clear, it's explicit. Basically, if we have a meeting, we take notes, we write things down on a whiteboard. We're very clear about exactly what we mean, what we need. At the end of the meeting, okay, takeaways, okay, and then after the meeting, we send emails with all of the updates on, or not updates, but what we already described in the meeting. Where in Japan, it's the complete opposite. It's layered, it's nuanced, it's very different, and they would be offended if we'd send them notes, and if we were clarifying and doing those type of things, they would think that we either thought they were stupid or that we ourselves were unintelligent, because they read between the lines. They don't make things as clear as we do. Erin actually talks about the reasoning behind that. Think about it. America's only been around for about 250 years, and we are the melting pot. We have cultures from all over the world all trying to live in one space. And so in order to communicate effectively, we had to boil it down to the most simple form. So everything became very clear. Whereas in Japan, they've been living on an island for thousands of years together, and this culture has been created over the course of that time, so they can communicate in more ways than just verbally, so they do it through physical interaction, things like that. Comfortability with silence, the difference between America and Japan. So in communicating, Japan is totally fine with long silences. Erin, again, talks about the length of time. They can be comfortable with 7 to 8 minutes of silence. So you ask me a question, and I pause for that long, even it was uncomfortable. Is something wrong with the computer? in America, you can see the difference here. We pick up person A is speaking. As soon as person A is done, person B starts speaking. There's no silence. We see it silence as a negative thing. Okay, did they not understand me? Are they mad at me? What's going on? Do I need to answer the question? Like in Japan, they see it as a good thing, as a sign of respect. Another interesting difference. So cultural differences between the USA and Japan, again, so Japan is a collective culture. US is an individualistic culture. This information is derived from an article by Hui Jen Yang. Japan is hierarchical. They are all about cooperativeness and interdependence on the group, whereas the US is egalitarian. There's competitiveness, independence, and autonomy is all huge. So a common phrase in Japan, the nail which sticks out the furthest takes the most pounding. In the US, the squeaky wheel gets oiled. So Yang talks about how basically overt displays of egoism or individualization are seen as like offensive, and they're interpreted as being aggressive, and they're only permitted under specific situations, like something stressful or unbearable provocation is just not acceptable otherwise. For us, the squeaky wheel gets oiled. I mean, think of the LGBTQ community. They're 4.5% of the population, but they're the loudest minority, and so they're getting all this attention. Very much difference, and I think they would be the population that would be being pounded if we're talking from that quote. Takeaways from this. I found it interesting, the difference between how I felt about hearing about the cooperativeness and the things that the Japanese culture does versus the things that the US culture does and values. I have always felt bad about needing community and needing to the word dependent sounds like a bad word, and even saying it now, I almost feel bad that I almost want to be dependent on somebody. But I like that, okay, maybe that's just my cultural glasses that makes me see it as bad and not necessarily that it is bad. So that's kind of my takeaway. We have references here. That video from the Global Leadership Network is the one on Erin Myers, and it's a great video. I recommend watching it.